And welcome to this session of mindfulness and compassion practice. Happy New Year to everyone. This is our first session of the new year. So let's hope it is a good one. Certainly the last couple have been rather challenging. So let's see how we can adapt to whatever is coming across to us. What we're going to do is the basic mindfulness practice, then expand into open awareness practice, working largely with the breath and posture in both practices. And then we will shift over into the compassion practice. I'll try to leave some time at the end for questions and comments if people have them. So to begin with, take a good posture. We always like to start with grounding before we actually enter into the working with the breath practices. So you can let your eyes gently close for this. And feel you have a good posture, upright, but not rigid. Shoulders not slumped forward or pulled too far back. You can, to leave them neutral, just let your arms hang straight down from your sides. Leave the elbows where they are and let your hands swivel up so that they're palm down on each thigh just behind your knees. Your legs are loosely crossed in front of you or flat, if you're in a chair, flat on the floor, about hip width apart. You want to feel like you're setting up a straight line from the top of the back of your head down to your tailbone. It won't really be straight because your spine has natural curvature to it. But if it feels a bit straight without being rigid, that's kind of the feeling that we want. By feeling that uprightness of the back of the top of your head, it naturally lets your chin pull in, so that if your chin floats up, you tend to get spaced out. If it tucks in too much and your head's tilted down, you get sleepy. So we want our neutral position. It's helpful to have the body in a neutral position like this. We choose sitting because if we're lying down, there's a tendency to fall asleep. If we're standing up, we want to move. So sitting is neutral, upright, but not rigid, so that we can explore and understand how our body and mind work together. It's easier doing it in this neutral sitting position than while we're going about the day, but eventually we want to be able to have that awareness as we're going through our day. But we start training this way. It's kind of like taking your car to the mechanic. You might drive around with him so he can hear the sounds, but eventually he's got to put it up on the jack and put it in neutral and then run it to see what's really going on under the hood. We want to be settled down. Too often we feel like we're holding ourselves up, perching, ready, kind of ready to jump into the next thing. So just settle in, let your weight sink into the chair. And scan your body for any unnecessary tension. We have to have a certain amount of tension to hold our posture. But if you start at the top of your head, your scalp and your forehead, eyes, ears, nose, cheekbones, and jaw, sometimes even around our eyes, we have a little tension that we don't realize. And certainly around our jaw, we're clenching and aren't even aware of it. So just let all that soften naturally as much as it will. When the jaw softens, you don't want to just have it hanging loose and wide open. Have just enough tension to keep Your lips either barely touching or just slightly parted. Neck and shoulders. Often there's a lot of tension in the shoulders. And if they won't just soften, you can actually intensify, increase the tension, lift your shoulders up, and then don't push them down, but just let them drop naturally. That'll shake some of that tension out. Collarbone and shoulder blades, out to the points of the shoulders, upper arms, chest, and upper back. Rib cage all around, solar plexus, stomach, lower back, and deep belly. Often we have more tension in our deep belly and pelvis area than we realize. Without losing your posture, just let them soften as much as they will. Hips and thighs, forearms and hands, knees, calves, ankles, and feet. Take a nice full breath in, and from the top of your head down to your toes, as you breathe out, just sweep all that unnecessary tension out. The in-breath has a gathering, energizing quality. The out-breath has a letting go, settling quality. We want to rest our awareness deeper into our body. Too much we're in our heads, and we think of our minds as being behind our forehead, but just let your mind, your awareness, fall back. Imagine that your mind falls back to the back of your skull and drifts down behind in the back of your throat, behind your chest, down behind your solar plexus, behind your stomach, all the way down, resting a couple of inches below the navel, just in front of your spine. Just imagine your mind down there, in the deep core of your torso. It's quiet down there. You can feel gentle movement as the breath goes in and out. Just let it move without manipulating it. With each out breath, let yourself really sink into that seat. Breathe out and sink down even further into the earth. Breathe out, feel merged with the earth. Like your lower body is part of the earth, but your upper body extends upward like majestically, like a mountain. Imagine you're breathing in that mountain air, fresh and cool. Let your breath come and go naturally like the wind. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Let your mind relax and be open. Imagine your mind is as big as the sky. Thoughts coming and going, like birds flying across the sky, leaving no trace. Body like a mountain, breath like the wind, mind like the sky. Now, gently let your eyes open about halfway so that you're looking downward on a diagonal, about 45 degrees. If your computer is right in front of you, you can turn to the side so that there's a little more space in front of you. But whatever your eyes contact, rest in that direction, but don't grasp onto what you're looking at. Soften your gaze. It's as if you're looking at the space between you and the end point of your vision. Be aware of your body. You can see your lap down in the bottom part of your peripheral vision. It's you, your body. You are your body and your mind. So it's you sitting in the space. The breath moving in and out. And to stabilize our mind, we want to keep it close to us. And the closest we can be is the internal sensation of filling as the breath comes in, emptying as the breath goes out. So make that the object of your attention with awareness of your posture, sitting there in the space, feeling what it feels like to fill as the breath comes in, feeling what it feels like to empty as the breath goes out. We'll do that for a couple of minutes. And if your mind wanders off into a daydream, which the mind has a tendency to do for all of us, you didn't do anything wrong, so be kind to yourself. And when you realize it, the daydream kind of pops and you realize, oh, I was someplace else. But you're already back. As soon as the daydream pops, you're already back. The present moment is our default state. We're always here. It's just that the mind drifts off. So when the mind comes back, mind and body are in one place at the same time. And return to awareness of posture, filling and emptying with the breath. Well, I see in the notes people are having trouble with the audio. I hope you can hear me. Apologies for the patchy internet connection. If you've gotten sleepy, rouse your posture and raise your gaze a little bit. If your mind is very, very busy, change the object of your attention to your thoughts. Instead of the breathing, watch for thoughts as they appear. Notice how they arise in your mind. Pass through and disappear. Then turn to more detailed attention of your breathing. The feeling starting to fill as the breath starts to come in, feeling it as you're filling, and the moment when you're full, and the tiny gap of transition starting to empty, emptying, and empty. Tiny shift to starting to fill again, and so on. We'll do that for a minute or so more. Now we'll transition to joining the mind with space on the medium of the breath. So raise your gaze a bit, not quite out to horizontal, but seeing more space in front of you. And focus on the out breath. And as it goes out, the breath goes out, and what it actually does is the breath itself dissolves into the atmosphere. It dissolves into the space in front of you. Ride the breath out. Let your mind mix with the breath as it's going out. Be with the breath as it's going out. And as the breath dissolves into space, your self-consciousness dissolves into space, and you're just sitting there for a moment in open space. Out there more than in here. Breathe out, dissolve, and rest. You don't follow the in-breath in, it just comes in by itself. And then as you go out again, dissolve, and rest. We'll do that for a couple of minutes. Again, if you drift off into a daydream, just smile. Notice that was daydreaming and come back to posture, out breath, dissolve, and rest. And now raise your gaze to horizontal. Look out. Let go of the breath and tune into your sense perceptions. Start with visual. Soften your gaze and open up to the full field of your peripheral vision. Notice colors, shapes, and shades of light and dark. Leaving your eyes open, listen for sounds. Near and far, high and low pitched, loud and soft. Sounds in the room, sounds outside as far away as you can hear, in all directions. Again, leaving eyes open, bodily sensations. The air on the skin of your hands and face. The pressure of your sit bones on your seat, feet on the floor. Can you feel the clothes on your skin, on your body? Cool, dry air coming in your nostrils, warm, moist air going out. Your body moving as you breathe. Watch for thoughts. Let your mind be open to whatever thought is going to arise next. Notice the experience. What are you experiencing as a thought arises, passes through, and disappears? Where are you experiencing the thought? Let your mind move from one sense perception to another. In no particular order, however your mind moves. We'll do that for a minute or two. And next, we'll go to the compassion practice. And for this, you can either keep your eyes open or let them gently close. It's up to you. But visualize, imagine in your heart center, which is at the center of your chest cavity, at the level of your heart. And don't think of yourself as so solid. You know, we're beings of energy. So think of yourself as energy and light. And that in your heart center is a beautiful, clear crystal made of light. can be like round, like a crystal ball, or shaped like a quartz crystal or a diamond. Whatever you imagine, but it is made of light as well. And it has transformative properties. This is the nature of mind itself that we all possess. And whatever negative energies are gathered into it are instantly transformed into the opposite positive energies. So holding that visualization in mind, let your mind relax and imagine that it's as big as the sky. Reconnect with how we started, mind like the sky. Limitless. And reflect for a moment on your own being and any feelings of negativity you have toward yourself, shame, blame, frustration, any ways that you feel bad about yourself, gather them all into. Imagine that as you breathe in, they're all gathered in from all parts of your being into that crystal in your heart center, and radiate out to yourself from that crystal, filling yourself with the opposite positive qualities. Breathe in blame, breathe out forgiveness. Breathe in frustration, breathe out contentment. Breathe in diminishment, breathe out acceptance. Take in feeling bad about yourself, breathe out feeling good about yourself. You deserve to be free from suffering, gather it in. You deserve happiness, radiate that to yourself. If it's helpful, you can put your hand on your chest, your palm on your chest, right at your heart center. Feeling yourself gathering in the negativity, filling yourself with happiness and peace. Breathe in your suffering and struggle. Breathe out to yourself happiness and peace. Now, as best you can, imagine in front of you a loved one, or as many of your loved ones as you can, your family and friends. They also have suffering and struggle. Imagine that as you breathe in, you gather all of their suffering and struggle into the crystal in your heart center. It transforms and you radiate out the cool moonlight of kindness to them, filling their beings with peace and happiness. Breathe in suffering and struggle. It transforms and radiates out peace and happiness to them. If you want, you can visualize kind of like dark smoke coming into the crystal from all of them and from yourself, and instantly transforms and radiates out like cool moonlight, filling all their beings with peace and happiness, yourself and everyone. If you or loved ones have illness, that's also a kind of negativity and suffering. Breathe all of that in. The crystal, the light in your heart center accommodates all of that and transforms it into health, peace, and happiness. Take away their suffering, send them happiness. And as best you can, include all beings, all people everywhere in the world, all creatures, great and small. They all have struggle, suffering, physical illness, or mental anguish. Take all of that in as you breathe into the crystal in your heart center. It instantly transforms. It's limitless in its capacity to transform the whole world's suffering into peace, health, and happiness. Like cool moonlight, it radiates out to all beings, covering the world, filling all beings with peace, health, and happiness. Take away suffering, fill all beings with happiness. And in these dark times, we have so much fear and hatred of others. We feel it ourselves. People in the world feel it, and it's the source of all the conflict. Ignorance, fear, and hatred of others. Gather all of that in to the crystal in your heart, your own and all beings. Ignorance, fear, and hatred. And radiate out wisdom, peace, and love. Wisdom, peace, and loving kindness. Gather in all the ignorance, fear, and hatred. Breathe out clarity, confidence, and loving kindness. If all beings have clarity, confidence, and loving kindness, all the problems, all the conflicts would disappear. Gather in the conflict, radiate out peace. Now let go of the visualization. Just be with your breathing again, settling, quieting the mind. Thank you. And what we connect with that compassion practice is the aspiration that we ourselves and all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. We aspire that we and all beings are free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Beyond that, we hope that we and all beings can enjoy a deeper happiness that transcends temporary happiness and suffering. And that ultimately we can all enjoy an equanimity in our lives, free from ignorance, grasping, and aversion. And as we like to, well, let's have discussion for a minute or two, and then we'll end the session with dedicating the benefit, because we want to always start our sessions with the intention that this is not going to just be for ourselves, but to help us be able to help others. And at the end, we want to dedicate whatever benefit has come from this session to the benefit of others. So I'm going to invite you to unmute yourselves. And I'll go through and invite you to unmute. And please share whatever questions or comments you might have. Yes, Birgit.
Can you say something more about the nature of thoughts? Andrew Holichek said once that, thoughts, you notice that when you start watching your mind, thoughts aren't just verbal. In fact, a lot of it I find is non-verbal. There are visual images, there are, find it even hard to describe, something similar to emotions.
Well,
like you think of a person, and even though they're not present, it's like you feel their aura, or whatever association comes with it.
Yes, you have a memory. So I can address that as thoughts, feelings, emotions, all of those. Okay. To understand their nature, you look at them, and the idea is that they are arisings in the mind. Our mind, it's interesting, our mind is the source of those thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. Mind is bigger than that. The mind is the container. So if you think of them like the ocean and waves. So the ocean is the source of all the waves. Are the waves the ocean? No, they are the display or the manifestation of the ocean on the surface. And so are they different in nature from the ocean? No. They have the same nature. But instead of an openness and just the vastness, they are an arising in a moment. Now, perceptions are particular kinds of arisings. They are mental arisings. And we even include thoughts as a kind of that, of a perception. We've talked about in other sessions that our awareness is like a monkey in a room with 6 windows. And it can look out the vision window or the hearing window or the seeing window. So whatever sense perception is arising, that's what occupies our mind. And the sixth window is thoughts. We perceive our thoughts. So they are an arising. And that's what appears on the mirror, in the mirror of our mind. You know, what color is a mirror? A mirror doesn't have color. Whatever appears in the mirror, that's what colors it. So then when you get into feelings and emotions, now we're talking big waves. And sometimes it's a tsunami and overwhelms us. And we think the tsunami, that's not the ocean. That's like its own thing. And it even goes inland and ruins everything in our life. But it's still the ocean. It's still an expression of the ocean. So thoughts, feelings, emotions, they're all they are the nature, their nature is the same as the nature of the mind. They're just the display. So I hope that's helpful. Unfortunately, I have a time limit today. So Tim, were you going to ask something? Oh, my whole life seems like a series of thoughts. What happens to those after we die? That's a really good question. If you ascribe to the continuity of consciousness, then we are a continuous series of births, deaths, and rebirths. Now, what's most useful is to look at that within this life. Because personally, I don't remember what happened when I died last time. And I can tell you what it says from my teachers. But if we look moment to moment, if your life is a series of thoughts, what happens to those when there's a shift? Now, the series of thoughts, is it a series? Yes, it's a series because we think it's one continuous thought, but that's because they're moving so fast. It's like a movie. A movie is actually separate frames that move together so fast that it looks like continuous motion. So that's what our thoughts seem like, which makes us think that we're continuous. See, if my thoughts are continuous, I must be continuous. Well, if you look really carefully, your thoughts are not continuous. And if you look really carefully, you are not continuous. So we die to the self who we were a moment ago and are reborn into a new self moment after moment after moment after moment. So the real question is, what happens when that series gets interrupted and we die to who we were for that series of thoughts, and now, new one. In that gap, there's no separation, there's no duality between ourselves, our body, our thoughts, our feelings, our awareness, and the world that we experience. It's a unitary field of experience. And it actually happens to people, we call it being in the zone. Sometimes in athletics, you experience it, but also in moments like of crisis, like an accident, you are completely there. So it's like, as I said, it's a unified field of experience for a moment, maybe a little bit longer. And then there's another series of arisings. So the idea is to identify with that nature rather than the content of the arisings. And the more we can do that, the less we take all the excuse the expression, shit show that we experience in the world personally. And everything becomes much, much more workable. So identify with who you really are rather than who you appear to be. Identify with the ocean and then enjoy the play of the waves. If you try to handle the waves, you get battered about, but dive under the waves, be part of the ocean, and you see the waves play. So I think that's a good way to finish for today. We want to dedicate the benefits. I'm going to mute everybody again so we don't have a cacophony. And that is, you can repeat after me or use your own words if you'd like. May the practice we have just done be of benefit to others as well as ourselves. And you can say it, may the practice I have just done be of benefit to others as well as myself. And as you know, I like to always invite the opportunity to feel more generous, or if you already feel more generous, you can say, may the practice I have just done be of even more benefit to others than to myself. So thank you so much for being part of this mindfulness and compassion practice session. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks, I hope.